Hi, my name is Mike Dillard, and this is Self-Made Man, the podcast for men who want to leave their mark on the world and create a legacy of honor, integrity, and achievement in every aspect of their lives. I'm glad you're here, and once again, it is time to forge your destiny. Today, we are joined by none other than Shark Tank's Kevin Harrington. Kevin is one of the most accomplished serial entrepreneurs that you will ever meet. I had to say, I thought I knew a little bit about Kevin, but I didn't even scratch the surface. In fact, he invented the modern infomercial thanks to a chance meeting at a trade show with an inventor of a knife that went on to become the Ginsu knife. You're going to hear about that story and how it took place in today's episode. Now, from that moment on, he went on to launch over 20 different businesses, which have produced over $100 million in sales each, including his partnerships with Jack Lalanne, Tony Little, George Foreman, the Home Shopping Network, and he was even the man behind the $500 million success story that is the Flying Lure. The bottom line is that Kevin knows how to sell, and he is also one of the founding board members of EO, the Entrepreneurs Organization, which is the premier peer group around the world for entrepreneurs, and I was actually a member of the EO Austin chapter just a few years ago. Today, Kevin operates a private consulting business designed to help entrepreneurs like you and I take our new and novel products to the market, and he is here today to share some of his biggest lessons learned when it comes to business and in life. This was an absolutely fantastic episode with some incredible stories and lots of pearls of wisdom. So please help me welcome and enjoy this amazing episode with Kevin Harrington. All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Mike Dillard here, and today we have an unbelievably special guest with us, a very, very rare opportunity that I'm unbelievably excited about, Mr. Kevin Harrington. So, Kevin, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mike. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, we don't have a ton of time today, so I'm gonna do my best to rapid fire some questions at you and to ideally pull out some words of wisdom and pearls of wisdom over your career over the last 40 years, having sold billions and billions of dollars worth of products on television. And, you know, the first question that I had for you after going through your story and your background and your history, what was your breakthrough moment back in your early days that was the turning point for you in your career that led you down this path?
Oh, great question, Mike. So there's a couple places I can, remember, that made big things happen for me. But I think the one that I'll probably focus on for the answer to that question is when I was actually sitting at a home show, and I was a business broker. I sold businesses. I sold pizza parlors and delicatessens, flower shops. I had a real estate license and a brokerage company that sold businesses and the real estate along with it. So car washes, coin laundromats, whatever. But I went to all these trade shows to understand the industries that I was in. And I was, never forget, I was watching this guy. He was demonstrating, he had a knife in his hand. He's cutting through a Coca-Cola can and then a hammerhead, then a muffler and a pair of sneakers. And I was just blown away by this pitch. I said, this guy is one of the greatest salesmen I've ever seen. And that's when the light bulb went off. This was back in the early days of back in the 80s. This was the, early 80s, mid 80s. And TV was much different than it is today. And so I remember that I'd been watching television and there was bars on the screen right around this time. And I'm thinking, what's going on? There's cable channels they didn't have enough programming to fill the channel space. So I said, what if we take this salesman that's selling this knife set, film it and put it up on TV? And I wasn't in the television business. I was a business broker, but here I am, an entrepreneur, thinking, what could I do with this amazing sales pitch that I just watched? And so I got talking to the guy. I said, let's film this presentation, put it up on TV. And, and we were all like, what do you even call this? It's like the word infomercial didn't even exist yet, right? So this was my beginning days. And that's when I said that this is a new way of selling products in the world, is finding people that are great salesmen in their arena and putting it up on on the television airwaves and cutting the TV station in for a little piece of the action. And so this was in the early 80s, and this was my breakthrough time when I got into what is now called the infomercial world. But back then, we called them long-form commercials, okay? So that was a breakthrough moment for me.
You know, that has, and correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I've heard and the people I've talked to, that world has become one of the single most challenging media channels on the planet. You're competing with attention on the internet, and you have to really become and be a master salesman. How did you learn how to sell?
So, going back even prior to all of this, I was in a sales business of being an entrepreneur. When I was 15, I started a driveway sealing business, knocking on doors, selling driveway sealing. Then I started a heating and air conditioning company while I was in college, and I learned how to sell furnaces. And I got a list of people that bought a new house. I called them up, said, "Hey, we're going to clean your furnace for free," and we'd go sell them a new furnace along with it. There was some new energy efficient furnaces that were just coming out. So I consider myself a good salesperson, but this I use then to build businesses and build my entrepreneurial activity. So when I got into infomercials, though, what I focused on was my ability to sell. It was finding the best salespeople in their world. So when I met Tony Little was a fitness guy, and he was a bodybuilder and a personal trainer, but he was a super salesman. And I said, "Tony, I want to do infomercials with you." And he's like, "What's an infomercial?" Okay. So, it was like, well, these 30-minute commercials. So Tony had a way about him. And when I met Billy Mays, the same thing. Billy, who's no longer with us, he passed away a few years ago, but Billy was a super salesman. And I said, I want to put Billy on TV. I want to put Tony Little on TV, Jack Lalanne on TV. So, I took each and every person that I would run into and found a way to utilize their ability to sell something and put them on television to sell those products. So I'll just say that, yes, it takes a good salesman to recognize a good sales pitch, but I recognize some of the greatest salespeople out there and took their sales pitches and put them into infomercials and created products around them.
What made them, if you will, naturals at selling in your eye? What did you recognize in them?
Well, each one was different, I guess. But in the case of Tony Little, he had a great pitch. So I look for, if there is such a term, the art of the pitch, right? Tony had created this technology called target training. And he said, I can take any bodybuilder, and if they have a 6-pack and they want to make it an 8-pack and add 2 more, I can show them how to add 2 more muscles, bulges, right at the place where they want it by doing certain kinds of exercises. If they've got flab under their arms, if they want to tighten up the glutes, get rid of the love handles. He had a technique for each and every body part, and he called it target training. So I said, and he was doing this for bodybuilders. I said, Tony, you've got a niche business. You are teaching bodybuilders how to tweak their body. Let's take it to the masses. Let's take it to every woman and man in America, not just bodybuilders. And he said, wow, great idea. So that's what target training was. And that was Tony's first infomercial. So I take the sales pitch, whether it's targeted or mass market, but I create something that becomes a pitch for as many people as possible. And by the way, it's like now, I just find things that are crazy, that some things that have a wow factor. So one of my new products is a product that is a nightlight for your toilet bowl. And you might think, well, why would Kevin be selling nightlights for toilet bowls? But think about this. It's 4:00 in the morning. You wake up, you got to go to the bathroom. You get close to your toilet. It's motion activated. Boom, the toilet bowl lights up. And you got 7 colors to choose from. You got a dimmer switch. There's a wow factor with this product. And from $0 to $2 million a month in sales, this is one of our new home run products. So, we look for products with wow factors that have a pitch, that have talent and or a pitch person that might be associated with it. But sometimes the product is the star. in the case of this nightlight for your toilet bowl, it's called Glow Bowl. The product is the star. There's no salesperson to that. There's no pitch person to that. It's just, hey, look, is this you fumbling around in the middle of the night? You can't find the toilet. Introducing Glow Bowl. Now it lights up automatically when you get within 10 feet of it, and the kids love it. And it actually toilet trains kids because they're afraid to get up maybe in the middle of the night because it's dark. Well, now they look forward to getting up in the middle of the night because they're going to see the toilet bowl light up. So it's just kind of crazy, zany stuff sometimes that works, and you just never know. But that's the wow factor that I look for.
Very cool. So one of the most impressive parts of your bio in my mind is that you've helped take over 20 companies to $100 million plus in sales and revenue. And one of the biggest questions that we try to tackle here on this show as often as we can is, what is the key to going from a small business owner to a big business owner? So
the first thing is you got to have the vision. So, I mean, I could sit in front of somebody and a good example, a guy had a great fishing lure, sat in front of me and pitched me. And I said, I want to be your partner and here's my deal. And I'm going to build a huge business out of this. And for whatever reason, whether he did or he didn't have the vision, there's two things that I'll say, coming back to your question. What are the things you need to go from a little business to a big business? Number one, you need a vision. Number two, sometimes you need to partner with the right folks, and don't be afraid to bring in the right talent or the right people that have the ability to make it happen for you. So this particular person had no interest in my deal, turned around, walked out of my office and said, I'm going to do it on my own. I don't need you. And so a year later, they came back and said, I borrowed against my house. I blew $100,000 of my own cash that I didn't have, and I failed. And now that offer you gave me a year ago, is it still available? And some people would say, you know what? Shame on you for not taking it. No way. But I said, guess what? You've come back to me and said you failed. That I would have expected that to happen. Let's do the deal I proposed, and we're in. Well, that became the flying lure, and it ended up doing $500 million in sales. So I don't have an axe to grind. I'm an entrepreneur. I look for good products. I look for good people. And when this gentleman is, his name is Alex Langer, he's a cool guy. He made a lot of money on the flying lure. And, so I think partially he had some vision, but he wanted to do it all himself. He didn't want to hey, why do I need to give you a percentage of this? And it's like, look, if you're going to take something to the moon, understand it may not happen all by yourself, especially if it's the first time out. So I always say, surround yourself with some very high quality people, create the dream team, and don't be afraid to include them in a piece of the action.
Definitely some words of wisdom there. And another part of your resume that I found really interesting is that you were one of the co-founders of Entrepreneurs Organization, which I was a member of a few years ago and love and a big supporter of. How did you get involved with EO?
The technical side of that is I'm a original founding board member of EO, which originally was called YEO. So there was a group of us I had a couple meetings. I was out in Los Angeles, and there's a guy by the name of Vern Harnish. He founded something called ACE, the Association of Collegiate Entrepreneurs. And he said, you know what? And ACE was a great collegiate organization. He said, I want to get a bunch of young entrepreneurs together and form a young entrepreneurs organization. And so we said, you can't be over 40 as a YEOer. And there was a group of us. Michael Dell was involved in the early days. And then there was a guy named Ted Leonsis. And I say a guy, Ted is one of the wealthiest people in the world. Ted became number 2 at AOL when he sold his company to Steve Case. And Ted Leonsis owns the Washington Capitals, the hockey team in Washington, D.C. And so Ted said, I want to be part of this. I got in as one of the founding board members, Neil Balter, Stuart Johnson, a handful of us that started this. And we put some money into an account, formed the business. And then as we got a little bit older, we said, this YEO is pretty cool, but we're getting a little older. Let's just change it to EO. So EO grew out of YEO, and now EO is in, I think it's 45 countries, 150 plus cities, and we're, having a great time. So this was 1987 when we started it. And now I think the total sales of all the members of EO is something like $500 billion, which is pretty amazing. So I'm very proud to be one of the founding board members and affiliated with EO now it'll be 30 years coming up here next year. So I go around the world from London to Spain to Canada to Shanghai to Melbourne, Australia, all over the United States, New York, LA, you name it. I've been a staunch supporter and mentor to many, many entrepreneurs as part of EO for the last 29 years now. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, amazing organization. I would encourage any entrepreneur who meets the minimum qualifications, which I believe is a seven-figure business, to get involved in EO. It's almost like a rite of passage, but unbelievably valuable resource for young entrepreneurs and new entrepreneurs. So, Kevin, you're very, very, very good at making money. Most entrepreneurs are. Obviously, if they've got a growing business, they've got to be making sales. But I've also found, at least personally, that the skills that allow you to make money are not necessarily the skills or personality traits that are congruent with keeping that money, since we tend to be risk takers. Do you have any words of wisdom or lessons learned when it comes to the building wealth side of your career?
Yes. So I think, one of the things that I've always done, because in the old days, I would roll pretty much all my assets deal to deal, right? And, there's still people in my world that do that. And so, because in the early days, the banks wouldn't give you money. So you had to finance your own company. You had to take the monies you'd made and roll it into the next deal and roll it into the next one. So now my father always used to teach me, and my father was one of my mentors, that, don't keep all your eggs in one basket. He was in the restaurant business, but he had other businesses. So so what I finally did with my business, I used to be 100% the as seen on TV guy. And, literally every day was, spent 100% of my time building my as seen on TV business. But now in the last 10 years, television viewership has dropped by 50%. You mentioned it's one of the toughest media forms out there. So those that have locked and loaded only in that industry, have come to realize that they're pretty much in an industry that's going to be dead. Okay. Because, people are not watching as much TV. The kids today, my 18-year-old just graduated from high school over this past weekend, and it's like he doesn't even watch television. So, the landscape is changing. So what I did is I said, I need to diversify, and I used to launch 50 products a year, and that was my sole and exclusive full-time business. Now I launch 10 or 12 products a year, but I have other interests. I'm diversified across dozens of different companies and equities and upsides. So at any one time, and, some things go good, you got to ride the wave. And so, what I love to see, I love getting involved with public companies that start. And, I've been involved with 3 different public companies that have gone from $1 a share to north of $18 a share. Okay. So that's very exciting to see that happen. And, when you have significant equity in a company that has that kind of growth, those upsides help counter some of the other things that aren't making money or some that fail. So I always recommend leveraging yourself across other income streams and just don't rely. It's almost like if you're a 9 to 5 or working for a corporation, what happens? You've been with this company 20 years. One day their sales are bad, or Macy's right now is in having issues with retail sales, and Kmart and Sears have gone from 50 billion to 26 billion over the last 7 or 8 years. And if you're this long-term employee there, and one day you come in and you got the pink slip, what are you going to do? What's your leverage? Where do you go? So you've got to build in other income streams. Even if you're an employee type of person, get a part-time business that you can have extra income. And I call it, weekend wealth or weekend warriors, if that's what it takes. But as an entrepreneur, don't stick all your eggs in one basket, and have other ways of building some income streams that leverage across, the ups and downs of a single industry.
Yeah, absolutely. So switching gears just a little bit, from the outside, you look like you are a very fit individual, and it makes me assume that health is a big priority for you. Is that the case? And if so, what are some of the daily disciplines that you've incorporated into your life to really give you the energy and the stamina that you need for, this sport of business, essentially?
Hey, that's a great question. So I was a very athletic young man, and growing up, I played baseball and football and all the sports. And then in high school, I wrestled for 4 years, varsity level. And, just wrestling was a great sport. And, there was a camaraderie that developed anytime I ever meet a wrestler. And so I'm the same weight today that I was when I graduated high school. And so I can't say I'm in exactly the same shape, but I believe, over the years, things, I actually had a little bout where I gained some weight, wasn't working out, wasn't eating right, probably being in this TV entertainment business, entertained too much and said, 3 glasses of wine and then desserts and this and that. All of a sudden, boom, I made a decision about 10 years ago that, what? I'd like to live a long time, right? So, I don't drink alcohol. I work out a couple days a week. I watch what I eat. I get a good night's sleep. I try, I don't push the envelope. And I just, I think that having a physically fit body also adds to a good mental state. And, my wife always jokes, she says, how do you get up in the morning and just jump out of bed? And it's 2 things. Number one, if you're keeping in good shape and keeping track of your physical condition, your mental condition, and you love what you do, I get up every morning and I'm looking forward to the day. It's, there's so many new and exciting opportunities in each day. So that's one of the things that I love about my business is, that I think, you talked about creating sales and how do you find the right people? Well, now I pretty much have people coming to me, so I get to kind of pick and choose the people and the things that I want to connect with and do business with. So this is one of the advantages that I have is that, on any given day, some days I'm going to meet with 20, 30 people, one-on-one. And other days I'm just going to have 3 or 4 meetings and have more of a quiet day. But I look forward to, excitement on a daily basis. So you've got to be mentally prepared. You got to be in good shape. And I think that, having a good physical regimen, I eat right. I eat a lot of protein. I don't eat a lot of red meat. And, I carry, protein bars with me. I do energy shakes. And, I just think that it's good to keep your, a good mental attitude about yourself, and be in physical, condition at all times. So it's sort of a 10 years ago, I set out to kind of make sure that I keep track of myself. And just one last thing, my father, I mentioned, was a funny old guy, passed away a couple of years ago. Now he's 90, he was a week away from 93 years old, and an amazing man, an amazing person, and it influenced me tremendously as a mentor, for many, many years. But my father, when he hit his mid 80s, and he still driving a car up until he was 90 years old, right? He's like, I wish I'd have known I was going to live this long. I would have started to take care of myself a lot better, a lot sooner. Okay. And so he actually, in his last 10 years, really was, he always was getting up and around, but, if he probably could have been in a little better shape in his last 10 years, probably. And I just said to myself, hey, look, 10 years ago, that's kind of what I set my mind out for is, I want to be in good shape for as long as I can and just keep a good mental and physical attitude.
Yeah. I mean, I'm, 38 and starting to, health is starting to become a bigger and bigger priority every year for me. And, our last question for you here, Kevin, is you're probably reaching a phase in your life and in your career where I could imagine, the thoughts of legacy are starting to come around to more often. Is that the case? And if so, what kind of legacy do you think about leaving?
Well, that's a great question and a good final question. I think that so my legacy is, as I look at my everyday activity, I've got two boys. One is 26, going to 27 very shortly, and another 18. And my oldest boy graduated college, Penn State, had a great education. I was a college dropout, so it's good to see, just one of my boys is a college graduate. My boy, 18-year-old, just graduated from high school. But I now include my older boy into many of the deals that I do. So I take positions in public companies now and public, some private, but I love public better because it's more liquid. And so I include my son in a lot of these ventures. And so I'm looking at my family as the continuation of what I've started. And, and my 18-year-old is, he's going to be going to college, starting in August, but, who knows where that ends up. And, I think that I see continuing my brother, he was 9 years, my younger brother, and I called him. He had dropped out of college, and this was going back a couple dozen years ago. My mom called me and said, could you help your little brother out? He seems to be a little lost. And I called him and I said, come on up to Philadelphia. I want you to get involved in this new exploding industry that I'm in, which turned out to be the infomercial industry. And my brother is a very successful businessman and multimillionaire himself. And I'm very proud to see that, I taught my brother how to get into this business. I'm teaching my kids now, and I want to see them continue in the family tradition. And it's an amazing industry. The one thing I would say is the world of as seen on TV and infomercials is changing so rapidly that it's gone so digital that I think that there's, it's probably going to be called something different here in the near future, but it's all about entrepreneurship and also not only doing well for yourself, but helping others. And that's what, that was the, some people hear about EO and they think, oh, you're one of the founders, you own equity in that organization. I'm like, no, this is a nonprofit organization. We put money up to found this. We paid dues for many, many years. This is not something that puts money in my pocket. This is me putting time to help other entrepreneurs. So it's in my DNA to help other entrepreneurs. And this is important that my legacy is not just building my own businesses, but helping my family build businesses, but also my family continuing the tradition of helping other entrepreneurs build businesses and mentoring and being there for those that have a need to take their business to the next level. So I think that's kind of where I hope it all goes. And, it's not easy raising kids in today's world with the amount of diversions that they have. But I hope that it all works out for my two younger ones to continue this transition to the future.
Absolutely. So you are always on the lookout for up and coming entrepreneurs, great products, great ideas. Your door is always open to individuals who might have that next big product. Specifically, you're looking for business owners who have some experience. They've already got a 6 or 7 figure business, and you're looking for an opportunity to help take them to, let's say, 8 or 9 figures. How can people follow you? Where can they reach out to you and get in touch with you if they feel they might have something that qualifies?
Okay, so I've got a lot of different social sites, but so you can check me out on Facebook and Instagram, and I do a little Snapchatting here and there. But I do Facebook Live. But for your listeners, I'm gonna offer them an email that if they have something, because mention that they heard it through our relationship here, and that way we'll be able to make sure that I get back to them in a very prompt fashion, because sometimes it takes a few days. But Mike, I appreciate the opportunity that we've established this relationship together here. And if anyone wants to track me down, whether it's a product, a business, if you're in a need, you're raising money, you've got something that has some extreme potential. Think about, you want to go on Shark Tank with an idea, you're looking for a shark. Think of me first. It's Kevin at kevinharrington.tv. Kevin at kevinharrington.tv. And they can track me down, give me an email, and I'll be sure to get back to them. If they mention the podcast and our relationship, Mike, I'll be sure to get back to them quickly. And I really appreciate you having me on the show today. It's been a pleasure to reach out and hang out with a few entrepreneurs that are listening to us today. So thanks again, buddy.
Likewise, Kevin, this was fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today. And guys, thanks for listening. Please pass this show on to your friends and your fellow entrepreneurs so they can keep Kevin in mind and get in touch with him if they've got a product that could be the next big thing. So thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.
Together in the darkness.